Hi everybody, my name is Eli.
I'm Jason.
I'm Caden.
I'm Jaden.
I'm Nicole.
And we have the Yahuwah and the Torah, and these are the letters of Shaul.
And we are now getting into the book of Galations, and we've read through several different books, and we are thankful that you guys are reading with us, and sometimes the letters and words of Brother Shaul are very hard to understand. And the one thing that we are attempting to do is to make sure that people are not led astray by the words of Brother Shaul. And how do you get led astray by the words of Brother Shaul, gentlemen?
By taking his words out of context and thinking that he made his own religion and stuff like that.
You take one verse that he said and you say, well, he said that we should continue on in sin, but down below he goes, we should not continue on in sin. When you take one verse that he has and you say that, okay, well, he said something here, even though he's writing a huge letter and it's a huge sentence, you cannot take one sentence. If someone says, I ran to the store, and you take I ran, and you're like, okay, he just ran, and it doesn't make sense. You need to read an entire book, you need to read an entire thing to understand what he's even talking about, and even if you don't understand, it's because he was educated, he was more learned in things of being a Roman himself, being a actual Pharisee. He had the education no one else had. So when you translate this, when people are translating this from one to another, nobody's experienced this. Paul is one of the more educated people of the entire Bible. If you look at it, he was one of the most learned, one of the most intelligent according to book-wise. He was the most verbally, construct there was.
So, and to be a Pharisee and the level of Pharisee that he was, and for those who do not know, Pharisees were not the people of Yah. They did not keep the law, statutes, and commands. They added to the law, statutes, and commands, and they violated Deuteronomy 4:2. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make sure that people understand that if you are being led away from the laws, statutes, and commands of our Creator, then you're using the words of Brother Shaul in an evil fashion. If you are, for whatever reason, think that the laws of our Creator don't apply to you anymore because you have used the words of Shaul, then you're using what he wrote in a very evil state. So let us begin in the book of Galatians. Now, let us begin. You ready, Eli?
Yep.
All right. Jade, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Paul, an apostle, not of men. Okay. Again, right out of the gate, in mine, we have things in parentheses, right? This is called doctrines of men. Guys, when you see doctrines of men, this is what the translators put in. So Paul, Brother Shaul, did not write this himself. Brother Shaul wrote, if he wrote this, it says Paul, an apostle, and the rest of this is doctrines of men. Not of men, neither by man, but by Yahushua HaMashiach and Elohim the Father, who raised him from the dead. So that was the doctrines of men. And all the brethren which are with me unto the called out assemblies of Galatia, grace be to you and peace from Elohim the Father and from our Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. Back to verse 2, it says, this is who it is, right? This is
Galatia.
Yeah, this is to Galatia. So if you, for whatever reason, want the laws, statutes, and commands of our Creator to be gone, and you think that you're a church over in Galatia, I assure you, Brother Shaul, regardless of what it appears to say, has not said the laws of Yah are gone. So we're trying to take some of this confusion out of this. So this is a called out assembly in Galatia. Verse 4, who gave himself for our sins that he might deliver us from this present evil world, according to the will of Elohim and our Father. Eli, what is the will of Elohim?
For us to keep the Torah.
Yeah, the will of Elohim is the Torah. That is what he wants us to do. He wants us to keep it for all generations. Verse 5. To whom be glory forever and ever. Amen.
So that's an introduction to a letter. That's where how he introduces himself. That's how he writes his letter, saying, hey, what's up? My name is so-and-so. Hope you all are doing well. I come from this, and I'm here to write you a letter.
Yeah. To whom be glory forever and ever. Amen. I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Mashiach unto another Besorah.
So it obviously seems that there was some struggles in the faith. They did not believe in Yahushua anymore. They were going back to their ways. They were learning different things. And he's saying that he's a little saddened for them, that they are going away from Mashiach. They're already turning away from the words of Yahushua. They're already going and serving out their gods, as it seems. He's like, why are you guys going so quickly? Why is your faith so weak? And that's because they were Gentiles. They were rooted in paganism. It's the same reason that the Israelites went off and they built a golden calf after they saw everything. They were rooted in paganism, and it's hard to break old habits.
And they may have, back in the day, they may have actually thought that our Creator was in that golden calf. And I mean, they may have been thinking that they were, doing what they were doing to him, but it obviously is not him. Okay, so verse 7, which is not another. Okay, where do you say here? Let me go back to the section, read that all fully. I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Mashiach unto another Besorah, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you and would pervert the Besorah of Mashiach. But though we, or an angel from heaven, preach any other Besorah unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. Now, the Christians will take this and they have cursed me over and over and over because they say I have another doctrine. I don't have another doctrine. I have the same doctrine that is in Scriptures, and if people would read the Scriptures, I would hope and pray that it would be your doctrine as well. That doctrine is that we should obey the laws, statutes, and commands of our Creator for all times. And for those who want to put this on the cross, which command would you like on the cross first? Would you like to see your parents naked? Would you like to do bad things to your children? What do you want to do? Would you like to drink the blood? Those are all commandments that are good commandments, and they are not too hard to carry. So, if you want to put the laws on the cross, which one first? And before you say pig, that's an abominable thing. Don't put the pig on the cross.
Something I want to point out for those that are taking only the words of Paul and putting them on a book. An example is that if you have a piece of furniture that needs to be put together, you don't go to the middle of the instruction book and expect it to come out as you want it to come out. You have to start at the beginning of the book to have a completed piece of furniture. You don't have something good come from the middle of the book. You need to read in the beginning all the way to the end to understand what is being written about.
I have done that before, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
It doesn't.
I've tried that.
It doesn't. You can't be lazy in what you do. If you try and build a chair from the middle of the book, you're going to be so confused. You got to start back over. You wasted time just by going in the middle of the book, trying to understand it and being lost in this early. You're just wasting time. Just buckle down, read the beginning of it. Don't be lazy. If you are lazy, you are what is called a weak person in the Bible. You are called weak in the faith.
And the beginning of the book, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, is beautiful writings. People are like, well, that's the old school people. That's really old. We live in the 21st century, Jason. And yes, we live in the 21st century, but it also says these commandments are for all generations. In fact, Messiah Yahusha says that heaven and earth will pass away before the Torah ever will. And if you're looking out and you see that heaven and earth is still here, that means it's still here.
If your excuse is that the Torah is just history, why are you falling under the law you're falling under? Wherever you're at, the laws you fall under, the speeding laws, the traffic laws, anything you fall under, was made many, many years before you were ever around. Why is that not history to you as well?
And for those who do not know, in the Targums, the law was created 2,000 years before creation was ever created. That's a long time, folks. So it's been around long before we were ever thought about. I don't know if we were thought about. I can't say that. I'm not going to say that, but it was long before. Okay, verse 9. And I have my little navigator here, and he's not making this happen. All right. As we said before, so say I now again. If any man preach any other Besorah unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed. For do I now persuade men or Elohim, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet pleased men, I should not be the servant of Mashiach.
So he's just saying that if you teach another doctrine, you will be accursed. It's the same thing as back in the days when the Israelites were under Moshe. If you went over and you taught something else, if you taught to serve other Elohim, then you were going to be stoned. You were to be kicked out. It's the same thing. He said, let him be accursed. That's how it was meant to be. And it's the same thing as he's saying right here. And it's the same thing that it should be today. Anyone that teaches a different doctrine and tries to stray people of Yah away, they are accursed. They should be stoned. That's how it should be. And he says that he is not trying to please people. When you are a Christian, you're going to a feel-good thing. You're pleasing yourself. You're pleasing men by saying, I'm a Christian, I do this, and you feel good about yourself. That is not what you're doing. You're not a servant of the Messiah when you are pleasing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And they will literally sing songs to Yah. Well, it's not to Yah, it's to their God. And then afterwards, they have what in every church is a potluck. And they will go and they will eat pork in what their man-made temple is. And it's abomination to our Creator. Okay, 11. But I certify you, brethren, that the Besorah which was preached of me is not after man. For I neither received it of man, neither was I taught it, but by the revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach. For ye have heard of my conversation in time past in Yahudaism, how that beyond measure I persecuted the called out assembly of Elohim and wasted it, and profited in Yahudaism above many my equals in my own nation, being more exceedingly zealous of the traditions of my father.
So here's where we can see that he himself says that he was part of Judaism. He was a Pharisee. He was a person that was higher up. He was able to execute death to people. If you were a scribe that was Jewish or whatever, someone that is low, you're not going to be able to execute people you don't have that power.
Yeah, and he wasn't just a low-level Judaism. He wasn't a Judaizer. He was the man. And that is where we get into scriptures that people have taken as doctrine. When Paul says a widow must be 60 years old, that's not in the Torah. And this is the point that we are trying to make on all of this, is we have to be astute in our studying. We have to understand there is no such thing that qualifies widows at 60 years old. And guys, for those that don't know, our roof makes these loud sounds, and it is just the way 10 roofs sound. So my apologies for that. Good news is it's not raining, though, so we should be able to make it through this. Okay. So yeah, he's saying he was exceedingly jealous of the traditions of my father. The traditions of their fathers was not what Yah was wanting. We are supposed to get rid of the traditions, which is what Messiah Yahusha did when he was getting rid of, like, washing your hands before eating.
It's the same reason an average Christian would be mad at you for saying Christmas is satanic. It's their traditions. They feel jealous for their traditions. It's the exact same way he felt about his way. When you tell them that they are celebrating something that is evil, they're actually celebrating another God, and they're not even celebrating Yahusha, it makes them angry. They get jealous for their own traditions, and that's how he felt.
Yeah, and to me, I'm celebrating the birth of Messiah, even though he was born in somewhere in like September.
Still putting trees up, decorations, getting gifts.
They're
celebrating yourself.
Ashroth pulls up, and getting on your knees and to an adorned God, and you're opening gifts. It's pretty sick. Okay, 15. But when it pleased Elohim, who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his grace, to reveal his Son in me, that I might preach him among the brethren, immediately I confirmed not with flesh and blood. Neither went I up to Jerusalem to them which were apostles before me, but I went unto Arev, and returned again unto Damascus.
Arev is Arabia.
Arabia. Okay, thank you, Eli. Then after 3 years I went up to Jerusalem to see Kepha, and abode with him 15 days. Okay, so he didn't even, it doesn't even sound like he knew any of the apostles up until like years later.
He kind of went and did his own thing, and it kind of makes sense where he said he was in Judaism, how he only learned through prayer and through the things. He just kind of did his own thing for a while trying to figure out the whole Mashiach. He didn't understand what it was. It makes sense why he was in Judaism, why he might have wrote those books. If he wrote these before he met the apostles, why he said that women should be this and so with their widows and things like that. It makes sense.
And Kepha is the one, Peter's the one that gives us a warning about Brother Shaul's writings. He says you got to be very skilled to read them. Masomeno is what I'm saying with this. You got to be,
you got to be learned.
You got to be learned.
So you have to be careful. He writes hard words, and if you are not structurally doctrinated in the correct doctrine, you are going to stumble. He said it is a hard thing. His words are hard, and Peter understood that because Peter was a fisherman. Back in the day, a fisherman was not someone that went to school. A fisherman was someone that rose up early at the crack of dawn, broke out their nets, and they went fishing with their family. That was their job. They went and sold fish.
Yeah, so Brother Shaul was working for over 3 years. Then he went to Kepha.
To learn.
Yeah, and abode with him. He was only there 15 days. But then going into 19, he says, but other of the apostles saw I none, saying Yaakov, Adonai's brother. So he didn't know him. He knew James.
I think that's the one we're talking about. That I was talking about the other day. How it's like his half brother.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And that's been confirmed. And so it is his half brother. That's the James we know. 20. Now the things which I write unto you, behold, before Elohim I lie not. Afterwards I came into the regions of Aram and Cilicia, and was unknown by face unto the called out assemblies of Yahud, which were in Mashiach. But they had heard only that which he persecuted us in times past, now preaches the faith, which once he destroyed, and they glorified Elohim in me.
So I guess if you want to get anything out of this is that it does not matter how messed up your life is. You can still be used by Yah. You can still come to Yahuwah. He is open arms. Even as someone that was killing his own people, he let a murderer back in and to prove himself to be able to preach the Gospels.
Dude, it wasn't just a murder. This guy was a beat down artist.
Genocide.
Yeah, this guy was a beat down
He was
guy.
a really bad dude. So it does not matter how messed up you think you are, how messed up you think you've messed up your life. Yah is always welcoming you back, no
Open
matter
arms,
where you're going.
absolutely open arms. But it begins with Mashiach, Messiah Yahusha, and then it begins after that with the law, statutes, and commands of our Creator. We're called to be holy. Okay, Galatians 2. Then 14 years after I went up again to Jerusalem with Barnabas, and took Titus with me also. Okay, anyone? Barnabas?
Barnabas, yep.
Okay, so this is 14 years. He went at how many years? So it was 3 years. Then he went and saw Peter, right?
And then 14 years later, so he's getting...
So he's like,
He's almost 20 years into this.
yeah,
17 years, I
So
think.
this is a really long time that he went. Okay. And I went up by revelation and communicated unto them that Besora, which I preach among the other nations, but privately to them which were of reputation, lest by any means I should run or had run in vain. Anyone?
So he just said he'd go and talk to like highly esteemed people, better people, so that I think he didn't discourage them, so that he didn't just come and preach them in vain. Like he talked to everyone separately, so they didn't feel outcast. 'Cause I think esteemed people were the Jews and Gentiles. I think at that time.
Okay, yeah. But neither Titus, who was with me, being a Yavani, and what is it we have?
Yahwanite.
Yahwanite, a Grecian, right? Was compelled to be circumcised. Okay, so that's why would somebody be compelled to be circumcised?
Because he
They
is a
wanna follow
Yahwanite, he obviously doesn't know what circumcision is. That's gonna be something he has to adapt to, is to circumcise himself.
Yeah.
It's something you got to get ready for. You can't just say, oh, like we've talked about before, you can't just go in and say, all right, I'm circumcised, I'm a person of Yah, and then go live in sin, right? He's trying to adapt to, he's trying to get used to this whole new thing, and he wasn't compelled at the beginning, and that's something we read in Acts, was that the Pharisees would not allow any other Gentiles in because they were not circumcised. And Peter was like, we didn't tell you guys to tell them this. And they went and made their own thing and discouraged a lot of the people that were trying to come to learn about Mashiach.
Right, and they call it the circumcision party because that was their main goal. And the whole point of this, if you are not bound in the law, statutes, and commands, there's no reason to even get circumcised. There's no reason to, unless you, for whatever health reasons you decide to. But there'd be no reason to. Okay, 4. And that because of false brethren unawares brought in, who came in privily to spy out our liberty which we have in Yahushua HaMashiach, that they might bring us unto bondage, to whom we gave place to subjection, no, not for an hour, that the truth of the Besora might continue with you.
So I think a lot of people will get confused there what it means by the freedom of Yahushua and what it means in a bondage. And what he's trying to say is they were free from death. They are free from the curse of death now. They don't have to die. And they're trying to get people to be in bondage. They're trying to put a heavy yoke on them. It's when Yahushua said, you people put a heavy burden on the people. When they give them all these extra laws for Shabbat, they give them all these extra laws for washing of hands. He's like, you lay a heavy burden on people. And they were doing the same thing. They came in and tried to do the same thing when Peter or Paul was trying to teach these people about Yahushua.
Right, and you're not going to get an audience. If you go get an audience and you start preaching something they like to hear, and then all of a sudden whip out the straight razor and say, okay, it's time to do some cutting, you're not going to get receptive people, right? People are going to, whoa, what are we doing? Why would we ever do this? You know, it is a mark of our Creator that is on us.
You must first circumcise your heart before you circumcise yourself.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yep, and the Torah is not bondage by any means. He's not saying that either. Okay, 6. But of these who seem to be somewhat, and then we got a whole bunch of man-made doctrines here because it's in parentheses. I'll read it in parentheses, but just remember, this is what the translators put in. This is not what Brother Shaul put in. But of these who seem to be somewhat whatsoever they were, it makes no matter to me. Elohim accepts no man's person. For they who seemed to be somewhat in conference added nothing to me. But contrariwise, when they saw that the Besora of the uncircumcision was committed unto me, as the Besora of the circumcision was unto Kepha, for he, and there's more man-made doctrines, for he that wrought effectually in Kepha to the apostleship of the circumcision, the same was mighty in me towards the other nations.
So Mine says it was when it said yours was like esteemed. Mine said it was those who were esteemed. So those who are of higher power, I think, is what he's talking about. He's like he didn't matter. He didn't see them as someone higher power or not. He saw these people that he was teaching as all the same people. It didn't matter. So they contributed nothing, whether they were higher power or not. It did contribute nothing to how he was teaching these people. And he's saying that these people were uncircumcised because he wanted to deal with the uncircumcised while Peter dealt with the circumcised. He went to his own flesh and blood, where Paul went outside to the people to teach the other nations about Yahushua, trying to get them to be converted, because that was a new thing to people. People didn't understand that people outside the Israel, people outside that could be part of Yahuwah without going to that land.
Yeah, and absolutely. People still don't understand that they can be part of Yisrael and that we are called to be Yisrael. We're not called to be Gentiles. We need to get away from the world of Gentile. We all grew up. Everyone here in this house, we all came from Gentiles. We all came from Babylon. We all came from great evil. And it takes a while to get the evil out of you. And even still, it's hard to do.
And something else I understand is that those people all could have been Israelites as well, but they were scattered from getting kicked out, and when only Yehuda and Benjamin returned, those people could all have been Israelites as well, entrapped in other doctrines, not knowing who Yahuwah was at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. We are all of us out here are Yashrael. If you choose to keep the laws, statutes, and commands of our Creator, that is Yashrael. And in those laws, statutes, and commands, we're told to have our boys circumcised on day 8. But if you are coming out of the Babylon, a lot of people won't be circumcised, and so. But is that a salvation thing, Jaden? Is circumcision a salvation thing?
No, absolutely not.
What were you saying?
I wasn't paying attention.
You weren't paying attention.
I was looking at birds outside.
You were looking at the birds outside. That was awesome. Okay, so since circumcision is not a salvation thing, why not?
Because it's not required. Salvation is basically believing and following the Torah. You don't have to get circumcised to be saved, but it is a command to circumcise your child on the 8th day.
It is a command, but it is not a salvation thing. Absolutely not. All right, how are the birds out there?
They flew away.
Are they flying away?
Yes.
Why do birds? Okay, never mind. Anyway, let's go. 10?
Yes.
Eli, you're going slow on me here. That's a skull crunk. Okay, keep it up, please. Only they would that we should remember the poor, the same which I also was forward to do. But when Kepha was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face, because he was to be blamed. Okay, what is going on here? What happened to Kepha?
So it seems that there was a problem where I think Kepha as well wanted everyone to be circumcised as well, and he was he was pushing people away because they don't understand, right? Like the circumcision it's not a thing you're going to get used to unless you were circumcised at 8 days old. When you grow up not being circumcised your entire life, it's going to be something that's hard to adapt to. You're not going to be used to it. It's going to be a very trying thing on your mind to try and figure out why you need to do this. And I think this is where this is where they become kind of almost enemies, even though they are supposed to be united. This is where they separate themselves, where he's like, you stay away from my people, I'll stay away from your people, and they become two different divisions. And I think he was trying to get them to be circumcised as well, where he's like, no, not yet, they're not ready for this conversation, why are you here? And he pushed him away. That's why he stood up to him. He stayed away from him because he was at fault.
Yeah, and so there is no guy in the Bible named Peter, by the way. It just didn't happen. The guy's name was Kepha.
Yeah, but for easier understanding, I'm gonna.
But I want to hold on. I have a point on this. I'm not. Look in the NIV. It says Paul opposes Cephas when Cephas came to Antioch, right? So the NIV.
So a footnote in the previous chapter had Cephas. It said is Peter.
Peter, yeah. So
Yeah.
I didn't know actually they had the correct name. I mean, this is better than it is.
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes, right? I understand. This is a rare oddity.
That is strange. That is cool.
Yeah. So basically, this is interesting because this is the man, right? This is Kepha. This is the very first apostle that we knew of that was called by Messiah Yahusha, right? And so it is also the one who was with Messiah Yahusha. We know that he had a very close relationship with him because we know that his head was laying on the chest of Messiah Yahusha, right? They were that close that you could actually lay around like brothers or something, real close friends. And so this is very interesting. Okay. But when Kepha was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face because he was to be blamed. Okay. For before that certain came from Yaakov, he did eat with the other nations. But when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision. Okay, so that explains why.
James was there with the Gentiles, and the Jews came and he ran.
Yeah, so
The Pharisees and the Sadducees all came by, like, why aren't you circumcised? It's the same thing they did to Yahushua. Why are you eating with sinners? Except they seem to fear the people more than Yahushua did.
yeah, well, yeah, and they were. I mean, they saw what these people do. They're crazy, violent,
Mob.
religious. Yeah, they're a religious mob. Okay, so we know that James got a little embarrassed, right? And he took off. And the other Yahudim dissembled likewise with him, so much so that Barnabi also was carried away with their dissimulation. But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the Besorah, I said unto Kepha before them all, if you, being a Yahudi, live after the manner of the other nations, and not as do the Yahudim, why compel you the other nations to live as the Yahudim?
So basically, he's like, you're living like a Gentile. By doing what the scribes and Pharisees says, you're adding and taking away to the Torah. You're doing what the Gentiles do. You're doing what every other nation is doing. Why are you saying you're a Jew when you're living like this? Why are you doing what you're doing and you say you are of Yahushua?
Yeah, I think that might be it. Jay, do you have any other takes on this? Are you with me?
Yeah, I don't really see it like that. I see more like he's like, why are you being a Jew? It's like you hang out with Gentiles, you say you're a Jew. Why do you hang out with the Gentiles and then try to make them a Jew?
So the situation looks like, right, Yaakov was eating, right, and a whole bunch of the circumcision party, a bunch of the Pharisees came, and they split, right? They ducked under the table and ran out the side door. They didn't want to be seen eating them because Messiah Yahusha, even though Messiah Yahusha told us that the sick people are in not need of a healer. That's who we should be teaching to. So they all split, right? They all completely split. And then I don't understand his statement here.
Maybe I should read it in mine.
Read it out of theirs, please.
But when I saw they are not walking according to the truth of the good news, I said to Kepha before them all, if you, being a Yehudi, live as a Gentile and not as the Yehudim, why do you compel the Gentiles to live as Yehudim?
And so and so that is essentially, Yahudim is not Torah keepers, right? They are not keeping the law, statutes, and commands. It's a religion that they have, the Judaism, Yahudiism, and so that's essentially what he has. So this is
he got scared under peer pressure, is what it was.
Yeah, they did.
He didn't stand up for his faith as he should
They
have.
didn't keep the same thing Messiah Yahusha did, and that was basically stick by the sinners as he's.
And it upset Paul, which is rightly so. It upset Paul.
Yeah. Okay, 15. We who are Yahudim by nature are not sinners of the other nations. Well, that's...
them being by they at least have somewhat of the Torah, right? They're not going to be like eating pig and things of that sort.
Well, you don't know that, because if you keep the Talmud and you have 25 other things, basically you can have a sexual relation with a 3-year-old girl. It's an odd thing. In fact, you don't have neighbors. You don't keep your neighbors as your friend. It goes against the Torah. Their beliefs that we are goyim and that we are lesser and that we are dogs because we are not in their cult of a Judaism. That's what it is essentially about, right? So we who are Yehudim by nature are not sinners and not sinners of the other nations. They're essentially saying that they're set apart. They wouldn't do the same kind of stuff, but they're still sinners. But knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by faith in Yahushua HaMashiach, as we have believed in Yahushua HaMashiach, that we might be justified by the faith in Mashiach, and not by the works of law, for by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified.
So this is where a lot of people take this out of context. You have to understand that he was having a conversation with Peter. This wasn't even to them saying, we're no longer on the Torah, we're no longer saved. He's saying that the people their salvation does not come out of the Torah alone, but out of Yahushua as well. They were obviously leaving the teachings of Yahushua by following the Pharisees, by falling under peer pressure like they were doing. They were obviously disregarding what Yahushua had taught, what the salvation, the great sacrifice Yahushua made. And he's saying that you know this. You are one of the Yahushua's people. You know that not only they're not saved by the Torah alone, but also by Yahushua. That's how we are saved, by our belief in Yahushua. That's how we are going to make it. That's how we are going to be forgiven.
Yeah, Eli, what does it mean for by the works of law shall no flesh be justified? What does that mean?
We are not under the curse of the Torah anymore. We will not die by the Torah because we have Yahushua HaMashiach.
Right, and the second that we put our hand in the cookie jar at 3 years old, we've fallen under a curse. If we stole a cookie at 3 years old, even understanding right and wrong, we are under the curse of the Torah for stealing. And that's just the way it is. We are in that world. Okay, 17. But if, while we seek to be justified by Mashiach, we ourselves are also are found sinners, Is therefore Mashiach the minister of sin? Never. Okay, Jade?
So he says that
Or Cade?
if they're sitting there, they're trying to be declared right by Mashiach, they're going to find themselves sinners because they can't compare up to Mashiach. They cannot be Mashiach. They cannot even come close to what Mashiach did. He's like, they are sinners. And he's like, so, and then he'll be like, so was Mashiach, because they're walking away from the Mashiach's teachings. They're like, was Mashiach was he a servant of sin? Was he the master of sin? Like, no, he was not. Just because you're leaving these people and because you are being peer pressured into leaving Mashiach, do not think that Yahusha was a master of sin. He was quite the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, 18. For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself a transgressor. For I through the law am dead to the law, that I might live unto Elohim. Okay, anyone?
So basically, you are dead. Basically, when you break the Torah, you are dead, and so you have Yehoshua, so you're not dead.
Yeah, and absolutely. It does not say that you shouldn't be keeping the law. It does not say that.
The Torah died. It says you died.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, but it says, for I through the law am dead, right? That again says that you die, not the Torah, right? And you will die a spiritual death unless you have Messiah Yahusha. Okay, 20. I am crucified with Mashiach. Nevertheless I live. Yet not I, but Mashiach lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith in the Son of Elohim, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not frustrate the grace of Elohim, for if justification came by the law, then Mashiach died in vain.
So basically he's saying if they were justified, if they were given salvation by the law, by the Torah, then it would have been no good for Yahushua to come by, right? You could not get salvation through the Torah other than to do a sacrifice. That was the only way for forgiveness, and then Yahushua became the ultimate sacrifice, which was prophesied of times of old. We saw it in the Torah, we see it through the prophets, we see it that there is going to, Yahuwah had already planned this out. He's like, sacrifices aren't going to be it. I don't like your sacrifices, you guys, I just rather have your obedience, but you guys can't stop sinning, you guys can't be obedient, so I'm going to send my son to be a sacrifice. I'm going to send a sacrifice for you all time, to be your priest, to be a way for you to enter into my reign.
Yeah, and there is absolutely no justification of the law. You can keep the law or you cannot keep the law, and if you don't keep the law, you will fall under the curse of not keeping the law, but you are not going to be justified with it, which is why Messiah Yahushua had to come do what he had to do, because he was the Torah made flesh. That doesn't say he was our creator made flesh. He was the word of Yah. He dwelt with Yah before, prior to all of this. He knows what his dad's wishes are. All right, Galatians 3. O foolish Galatium, who has bewitched you, that ye should not obey the truth, before whose eyes Yahushua HaMashiach has been evidently set forth, crucified among you. Now, truth in my Bible, or in this chapter, is capital T for truth. Eli, what is the truth?
The Torah.
Yeah, and if you obey not the truth, who before whose eyes Yahushua HaMashiach has been evidently set before you, crucified among you, verse 2, this only would I teach you. Did you receive the Ruach by the works of the law or by hearing of the faith?
That's correct. That is right.
That is true. We did.
Yahushua said that you believe and the Ruach will come down to them. It's when he breathed on them and the Ruach came down. They were willing to receive the Ruach HaKodesh.
Yeah, we did not have it with the works, and we did not have it by the law. But are we supposed to stop doing the works?
No. See, this is what you have to understand here, is that there was a great going astray from Yahushua, from the teaching of salvation, that the Pharisees and Peter, that everyone had fallen under, because these people were pressuring these people to leave. They were judging them. They were doing the same thing that they tried to do to Yahushua, but Yahushua didn't break, but they did here. So Paul is trying to write to them, trying to tell the Galatians to come back, to understand that they have salvation, that they don't need to listen to the people that are leading them astray.
Yeah, absolutely. And the people that are leading them astray, most of them did not like Messiah Yahusha.
They killed him.
Yeah, they killed him, and then later on in their so-called oral Torah, they say he's boiling in human feces. That's how bad the Jews hate the Messiah. Okay, verse 3. Are ye so foolish? Having begun in the Ruach, are ye now made perfect by the flesh? Okay, what's he saying?
He's like, you're not saved by living as you are. You're not saved by just doing the Torah alone. You have to have Messiah Yahushua as well. It's a two-part salvation.
Yeah, it is a two-part salvation. It is absolutely two-part. One without the other doesn't make any sense, because if we had the Torah but we didn't have a Levitical priesthood and a way to sacrifice, then we would know that we're doomed. We would have no way out of it. But because Messiah Yahushua was there, we have this hope, and this is what our hope is. But it takes two parts to make this happen. Okay, 5. He therefore that ministers to you the Ruach and works miracles among you, does he do it by works of the law or by hearing and faith?
So a person that's doing miracles, of course he can do it by faith. That's what Yahushua said. If you have faith to move a mountain, it will be done. You have to have the faith of a mustard seed.
Yeah. And it's not the works of the law that are performing these miracles
it's
that are doing
faith. This is obviously, they obviously had the Torah here, but they were struggling in the belief of Mashiach. They were struggling in their faith.
Right. Even as Abram believed Elohim, and it was accounted to him for righteousness, know ye therefore that they which trust in faith, the same are the children of Abram. And the scripture, foreseeing that Elohim would justify the heathen through faith, preached before the Besorah unto Abram, saying, in you shall all nations be blessed. Jade, you want to break this down?
Yeah, so he basically saying that Abraham had faith, right? Because he wasn't commanded a Torah, but he knew what was clean and what to do. But he believed, so he was a righteous man. And so that was counted as righteous, how he was saved.
How was he counted as righteous?
Because
what did he do?
Believed, he had faith. He did what Yahuwah told him
Believed,
to do.
and what did he do?
He followed the Torah.
He kept it. Yeah, he walked
and
the Torah.
And then it says, so if you believe in Yehoshua and you believe that Yahuwah will save you, and you also follow the Torah, then you will be counted righteous as well.
The Christians will say Abram never had a Torah. That never came until Moshe. What do we say to this?
He knew how to do sacrifices. He didn't want to be the Gentiles. He knew what was right and what was wrong.
Yeah, he walked with Yah. Okay. 8, is that where we're at? Mm-hmm. And the scripture, foreseeing that Elohim would justify the heathen through faith, preached before the Besorah unto Abram, saying, in you shall all nations be blessed. So then they which be of faith are blessed with faithful Abram. For those who rely on the law of works are under a curse, for they are written for the accursed. All who do not continue in all of the writings in the sefer of the law to do them. The Christians take this out of context. I've heard this hundreds of times.
Torah is cursed.
Yeah, they're like, oh, well, we're not going to follow
Here's
the
what
Torah.
it's saying is that you cannot be saved by the Torah. You have to be saved by the belief in HaMashiach. If you do not continue out with the Torah, if you do not do what the Torah said, you do not continue doing the Torah, you're cursed.
We've already, every single one of us have fallen under the Torah's curse.
And the only way to come out of that curse is by belief in Yahushua HaMashiach.
Right, and since we do not have a Levitical priesthood, that's all we have. Okay, 11. But that no man is justified by the law in sight of Elohim, it is evident for the just shall live by faith. How are we living by faith?
We are believing in Yahushua HaMashiach. We are believing what he said. We are believing that he said, keep my commands.
Yeah, and the law is not of faith, but the man that does them shall live in them. Okay, so what is he saying? What is
the
it?
Torah is not of belief because it is a written thing. It is a thing that we have established, and we're doing it, but we have the faith to believe that it's bringing blessings, and we have the faith in Yahushua to bring salvation.
Yeah, you don't have to hear from somebody, this is what it is. You have it in writing. You can see what it is. It's doctrine. It's what it is.
Something to note why this is so important that you don't always take it for what it is that back in the day they didn't have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It wasn't until way later that it was written. Here they only have word of belief. So when he writes this letter to these people, he's like, this is why it's a faith, because they don't have it written. Now we have a book we can read out of. We can see that the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is all there. Back then they only had the Torah and the prophets. They only had all the way from the Old Testament. They didn't have anything in the New Testament. The only thing they had was what was here and what Paul wrote to them.
And most of them couldn't read that, and most of them could not afford a Torah scroll. It would take, I believe they said it took over a year's wage to buy a Torah scroll, is what it was. And so that's for the rich people.
And I'm sure that's not how Yah intended it either.
No, absolutely not.
Because he wants everyone to know it, and if you're paying your entire year's wage, which is like a lot of money, that's crazy. No one's going to be able to learn the Torah like that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And they probably wouldn't have been able to read either, because most of them didn't have...
Well, that's what we have differently today, is that everyone has a Torah. Everyone has it at the beginning of their Bible. You don't need a fancy Torah scroll to read the Torah.
Absolutely. And you're reading in the language that you're in. So it has been delivered to us. Praise Yah. Okay, 13. Mashiach has redeemed us from the curse of the Torah, Hallelujah. Being made a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone that hangs on a tree, that the blessing of Abraham might come on the other nations through Yahushua HaMashiach, that we might receive the promise of the Ruach through faith.
So there's nothing contradicting the Torah at all so far. Nothing at all. He has contradicted the Torah.
Yeah, so far Galatians is good.
He's
so far.
he's just saying that Yahusha, he redeemed us from the curse. How much more explanatory can you get when he says we are freed from the curse of the Torah, which is death?
Yeah, and what was it? Deuteronomy 28. There's blessings and curses. I think.
Yeah.
Was it 28? Yeah, blessings and curses. It will tell you if you don't want to keep the Torah, you're not going to have a great life. You may have a good life in Hasatan, but at the end, it's all going to be over, right? Satan will bless those who are not in covenant with Yah, for sure. Okay. Let's see. 15, right?
Yes.
Brethren, I speak after the manner of men. Though it be but a man's covenant, yet if it be confirmed, no man disannuls or adds thereto. Oh, that's good. Right, we should definitely have that. No man. Deuteronomy 4:2, don't add to. Now to Abram and his seed were the promises made. He says not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to your seed, which is Mashiach. Anyone want to take a stab at that?
So because Yahusha is the bloodline, right? He said because of the promise that he gave, and said because of your belief, your generations, the nations will believe. The rest of the world is going to believe. And because Yahusha came from Abraham's line, which was all the way down to Yehuda, which was all the way down to David, all the way to Solomon, all the way to Miriam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is the generations of that. That's how Yahuwah fulfilled the promise he made to Abraham, which was Mashiach. He said through the nations, through Yahushua, the nations are going to believe.
14 generations from Adam to David, and then 14 generations, was it to Mashiach? Or was it 14?
It was
3 sets of 14?
It was 14 and 14. It was 2 sets of 14. Yeah,
Was
it was 28.
Abraham to Yehoshua was 14 generations? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Cubs. 17? Is anyone with me?
Mm-hmm.
This is where we're at?
Yeah.
And this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before Elohim and Mashiach, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul, that it should make the promise of no effect. What is that? What did you guys say?
So this is mine. You want me to read it as it is?
Yeah, read it.
Now this I say, Torah that came 430 years later does not annul a covenant previously confirmed by Yahuwah in Mashiach so as to do away with the promise. So he's saying that the Torah came 430 years after Abraham had died, way later, which is a long time. He says just because the Torah came, you got the cursings and the blessings, does not mean that the promise is going to go away. That's why Moses was up on the mount pleading with Yahweh. He's like, please don't break this promise with the people. You made a promise to make them many generations. You made a promise to your servant Abraham. And that's why Yahuwah was let go of his anger, because Yahuwah was able to be reminded of that promise he made. He said the Torah, just because there's blessings or cursing because they were separated from Yah at times, does not mean that the Torah gets rid of the promise that was previously made to Abraham.
Yeah. All right, 18. For if the inheritance is by the law, it is no more a promise, but Elohim gave it to Abraham by promise. Why then the law? Grace was added because of the transgression, that the seed should come to the promise through Elohim in the hands of a mediator.
Did yours say grace?
It says grace.
Mine nowhere has grace. Mine says, why then the Torah? It was added because of transgressions, until the seed should come to whom the promise was made. And it was ordained through messages in the hand of a mediator.
Yeah, this is a horrible translation by Dr. Stephen Pidgeon again.
But anyways, if grace was added because of transgressions, it's because they were transgressing. It was because that the Torah was needed so that the people would stop transgressing, so that they knew that they were transgressing, because if they were going down and serving a giant sphinx, or they were working the pyramids in Egypt, they were transgressing the Torah of Yah. They may not have known it, but that's why it was made, so that they would know that they should not sin against Yahuwah.
Yeah.
Not even the king has grace.
Yeah, no, this is a really bad translation. This is a Christian conundrum here. Okay, 20. Now a mediator is not of one, but Elohim is one. Is the law then against the promises of Elohim? Never. For if there had been a law given which could have given life, truly justification should have been by the law.
Mine says truly righteousness would have been by the Torah. So we would have been able to be saved by the Torah if that was how it was made to be. If that was how the promise that Yahuwah made, Yahuwah has a plan for everything. You can see in the entire scriptures, his plans always come together. It may take hundreds of years as we see here, but his plans, his promises always come together. He always had it planned out. He's had it from the very beginning, how everything has been planned out.
Yeah, beautifully put. 22. But the scripture has concluded that all are under sin, that the promise by faith in Yahushua HaMashiach might be given to them that believe. But by faith we were guarded by the law in common subjection to the faith which should afterwards be revealed. Anyone want to take a stab there?
So he says, by our belief we became under the Torah. By belief we are following the Torah. We are guarding the Torah, doing as it says. We are believing that Mashiach was to come, and that's why that the scripture tells us what sin is so that we do not break it, but we have salvation through the belief in Him.
Right. Jay, do you have anything?
He pretty much got it.
You're not looking at birds again, right?
No.
Okay, good. Here we go. All right, 24 is where we're at.
Yep.
Wherefore the law was our tutor to bring us unto Mashiach, that we might be justified by faith. But after that faith is come, we are no longer under tutors. For ye are all children of Elohim by faith in Mashiach, Yahusha. For as many as you have been baptized into Mashiach have put on Mashiach. There is neither Yahudi nor Yavani, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Yahushua HaMashiach. And if ye belong to Mashiach, then ye are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise.
All right, so
I've heard this a billion times before as well.
starting back where it says the Torah was our, it said mine says the Torah became our trainer unto Mashiach. It basically prepared us for Mashiach. It gave us the direction. We know that we need to keep the Torah. We know that there needs to be a forgiveness of sins, and it prepared us for the coming of Mashiach. That's what the Torah did. It prepared all these people for Mashiach is what it did. And he says now that Yahuwah has come, we don't need to be preparing for anything anymore. We are already ready to graduate into
Yahusha.
Mashiach.
Right, yeah, now Yahusha has come. I think you said Yahuwah.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, but yeah, that's absolutely it. So that's...
And then he says, he goes on and says that there's no Yahudi or Yahweh. It doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone that believes in Yahushua HaMashiach and keeping the Torah, you are the seed of Abraham.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we are not going to make it to the kingdom to come unless we are keeping the law, statute, and commands. Read Revelation 14:12 or 12:14. I think it's 12:14. I think that's what it is.
I think it's 14:12.
14:12. And it says essentially that those who are saved keep the Torah and the faith of Mashiach. All right, let's go. Continue on. We're making great trails here. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differs nothing from a servant, though he be Adonai of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the father. Jade, you want to take a stab at that?
So basically saying that a child is he's the same as a servant until he becomes like old enough to rule over the household. So
Yeah,
basically, I think it's going back to the last chapter we were talking about how he had a trainer in the Torah and stuff.
Something
Right.
with a letter is that they didn't have chapters like this where they would break it down chapters. These
Yeah.
chapters are actually man-made. We didn't have chapters like this back in the Bible. They just continued on from the story, and that's why it doesn't make sense. But he's saying because how it was taught back then, how it was a tutor, how it was a trainer, it's saying the child is an heir. We're an heir to a promise. A promise is Yahushua. We are able to be saved. We are able to be that, and since the time was prearranged by the Father Yahuwah to give us the inheritance, we are no longer slaves, but we are now masters over sin. We should master sin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, and we'll only know how to master sin by keeping the Torah, by writing on our hearts, minds, and souls. Okay, 3. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage by the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time was come, Elohim sent forth his Son, who was born of a woman and subject to the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons.
So, my question is, how do you mix up bondage by the elements of the world and bondage by the Torah? Because there's clearly a difference here. There's clearly a difference.
Because very lazy people think that keeping the laws, statutes, and commands of our Creator is bondage. And so they use these words of Paul to free themselves from the law. And it never says that. It doesn't say that, at least in this book.
It says by the elements of the world. The world is full of sin. The world is full of evil. We're enslaved by sin. And since he said he comes to redeem the people under the Torah, he didn't say he came to redeem the people in being Gentiles. That's what it said. That's exactly what it says. There is no other way around it. You can't say, he's saying that he came to save people from the law. He's saying he came to redeem them. He came to bring them salvation because there was no way into salvation back in the day like there was now.
Yeah, and even then, there was all you had was a sacrifice. You did not have the ultimate sacrifice. And so it was a continual thing. You had to continue on sacrificing an animal because people were very evil. Okay, 6. And because ye are sons, Elohim has sent forth the Ruach of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore you are no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of Elohim through Mashiach. Howbeit then, when ye knew not Elohim, ye did service unto them which by nature are not Elohim. Okay, so essentially saying when you're not in Torah, you're doing service to the devil. You're doing evil stuff because you, by default, if you're not keeping the Torah, even if you're a very good person with a great heart and great stuff, you're still going to be snacking on the bacon. That is outside the Torah.
We are no longer servants to sin here. He's trying to get across the point of these people that they don't need to be following under these people that say Yahusha is no more, that there's no way of salvation. He's saying that you are no longer slaves to death. You are now a son. You are now a ruler over death. You are now have a way into the kingdom of Elohim.
And during this time, people should note that they were still sacrificing animals. There was still a sacrifice, and guaranteed, just because the veil in the temple ripped and it shredded from the top down, the people that were in charge, this was their livelihood, right? The fake Levite priests of that time, the Caiaphas, the guy that slapped Messiah Yahusha.
That's not Levitical.
Yeah, that's not Levitical. They were still doing their thing, and if all of a sudden there was a new sacrifice system, that's going to go against everything they know, and this is why they're fighting this so much.
Something I just want to know that's off topic here is that nowhere when Yahushua said, I am the son of Mashiach, did it go against anything
I'm the son of...
Or the son of Yahuwah. There's nothing against Torah that says that he's blaspheming, that he deserved death.
But the man-made doctrines, in parentheses, will say, because he made himself equal to Elohim. And he never said that. And being the son does not say you're the father. It never ever says that. Okay, 7. Say
8.
Okay. Howbeit then, when ye knew not Elohim, ye did service unto them, which by nature are not Elohim. We read that. But now do ye know Elohim, or rather are ye not known by Elohim? How turn ye again to the weak and beggarly elements? Do ye desire again to be in bondage? The Christians will take it right there, like, oh no, we don't want to be in bondage.
Bondage is not bondage of the Torah. Bondage is bondage of death. He's saying, do you really want to go back to the curse of death?
Yeah.
Yahuwah gave us a way out by sending his son. He's like, he knew it. He said from the beginning he's going to send salvation. It was the time to come for Yahushua. Yahushua came down and he gave them a way out of death. Yeah. And if you are going outside of the Torah, if you are going by man-made doctrines, and Christians, they are their own form of Pharisees. They are their own form of Sadducees in their own way by cutting out part of what needs to be done, what you need to do to be a child of Yah. You are giving yourself the curse of death.
Yeah, absolutely. Verse 10. Ye observe days and months and times and years. I am afraid of you, lest I have bestowed upon you labor in vain.
You're saying I'm afraid of you? Mine says I fear for you.
I am afraid of you. Steven.
I'm alarmed.
Why is he afraid of like they're going to stone him? He has no fear of these guys. Obviously, he's not fearing. From the entire beginning of this book to like right now, there's obviously no fear. He's talking to these people because he's not afraid of them.
Yeah, he's speaking straight to them.
If he was afraid of them, he would probably just leave.
Yep.
He would never say nothing.
Brethren, I beseech you, be as I am, for I am as ye are. Ye have not injured me at all. Ye know how through infirmity of the flesh I preached the Besorah unto you at the first. And my temptation which was in my flesh ye despised not, nor rejected, but received me as an angel of Elohim, even as Mashiach, Yahusha.
So I think this is where it begins, where we go back to where before he knew Peter, before he knew anything, he still had his Judaism ways, when even though he was teaching Mashiach, he still had his Judaism mixed in with it. Why we have the book of Timothy, or is it Thessalonians, where he says the widow. Obviously here he says that he was still messed up. He was still rooted in doctrine, and they still took him for an angel, even though he was still in sin, even though he was still living a life of Judaism, a life of paganism.
Right.
My 12 says bondage of Jewish ritualism.
Bondage of Jewish ritualism. So what's the full verse reading?
Brethren, I beg of you, become as I am, free from the bondage of Jewish ritualism and ordinance.
That's perfect. That's
what
it is.
And the Torah is not Jewish ritualism.
Absolutely not.
The Jewish is not. The Talmud, the Kabbalah, the
Zohar,
the rest of those books, those are all Jewish books.
Yeah, and they're all evil too. Like the Kabbalah, you learn how to speak to demons.
So it does make sense. That's why you don't want Thessalonians in the Bible, or you don't want the books
Timothy.
or Timothy. You don't want those books in the Bible because he says right here that he was still in Judaism. Obviously, he's gotten better at it right here. He has a better way of explaining things. He's figured out over these 14 years of doing this that he was still rooted in Judaism. That's why you cannot take letters out of this that were in
Not
these
to
books.
you.
Yeah, they were not to you. He was trying to help these people. Obviously, he was still struggling, and that's why you have to be firm in your doctrine before you go around giving people advice, because you will mess people up. And obviously, people are taking this and going to hell
And
for it.
at the level that Paul was, he had the Torah memorized as well as most of the 25 books. This guy was astute. He was a scholar on this side. And so when he's talking about widows being 60 years old and things like this, or having women not speak and not teach and things of that nature, that comes out of Judaism. That comes out of those evil books that we're talking about. All right, 15.
Yes.
Where is then the blessedness you spoke of? For I bear you record that if it had been possible, ye would have plucked out your own eyes and have given them to me. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth?
Okay, so it's obvious that there is definitely a big problem. They all don't like Paul now. They've all been brainwashed by the Pharisees and Sadducees. These people have been brainwashed now into hating Paul.
Yep. Okay, and am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? They zealously affect you, but not well. Yea, they would exclude you, that they might affect them. But it is good to be zealously affected always in a good thing, and not only when I am present with you. Anyone, Jake?
So basically, he's saying that you need to keep up the faith. You need to keep up the things, not just when he's there, but at all times, because they're obviously. It's like putting on a show. If you're good for one moment when someone important is in your midst, and then you go back and you're just an evil person, it does no good. He says you need to be zealous for the word of Yahuwah at all times, not just when he's around.
Yep. 19. My little children, of whom I travail in birth again unto Mashiach, be formed in you. I desire to be present with you now and to change my voice, for I stand in doubt of you. He's telling them off.
So basically, he's just saying, I'm very disappointed right now. He's like, I want to see you guys to make sure what I think right now is not what's really happening. I really hope that you guys aren't leaving the faith and going back to Judaism.
Yeah. And so this is yet more, the next verse is people that, this is a stumbling block of the Christian religion. Tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, do ye not hear and obey the law? He's talking about a Shema. And so he's essentially saying that if you want to be under the law, why aren't you doing what the law says? For it is written that Abram had 2 sons, the one by a bondsmaid, the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondswoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by promise.
So that's great right there. He's saying that you are free being under the Torah. You are a free person. You are not a slave. If you are born into the flesh, you are born into sin, you are born into death, and you are a servant to sin.
Yeah. This is 24. Which things are an allegory? For these are the 2 covenants. The one from Mount Sinai, which genders to bondage, which is Hagar. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Erav, and answers to the present Jerusalem, for she is in bondage among her children. Okay, what is this? What does this say? Because she's in bondage. You're in bondage if you do not keep the Torah.
Right, they're outside the law.
Yeah, you're outside of the law, and so all of the children of Hagar, basically, they became cursed because they were not in the law. Okay, anyone else?
No, that's
Anything?
good. That's good.
But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. For it is written, rejoice you barren that bear not, break forth and cry, you that travail not. For the desolate has many more children than she which has a man. Anyone understand this? Is there footnotes here? Okay. Yes, this is the prophets of old. Anyone understand what that says?
He's making a giant metaphor for free people and slaves. If you are following Yahushua and you are keeping the Torah, you are a free person. But if you are outside the covenant that was made on Mount Sinai, you are a slave. You are going to be estranged to Yahuwah.
Right. I see that. Okay. For it is written, 28. Now we brethren, as Yitzchak was, are the children of promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the Ruach, even so it is now.
So how do we know he was persecuted? We know that Yitzchak, Isaac, was persecuted by his brother Ishmael. We know that he was going to kill him. He didn't like him. And he obviously makes reference to it right here, that he was persecuted by him.
Nevertheless, what says the Scripture? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free.
So another way to say this is, depart from ye who work iniquity. He's saying that the bondswoman, the slave of Abraham at that time, which was Hagar, was thrown out. He says, if you are going under the slave, if you're going back to your Gentile ways, you are the slave, and you're going to be thrown out.
Yeah, and you will never be free unless you're keeping the Torah. Then you will be free, and it's amazing. Okay, here we go. So far, so good, right, guys?
Yeah.
Book?
Yeah,
this is the best book by Paul so far, I think. Does anyone agree with me or
I
not?
agree.
Yeah.
The other one was really good.
Well, I mean, so far what we read.
Yeah, I mean, there was one other book that we thought was really good.
First and Second Thessalonians were okay. They weren't like this, but I mean, this is good
He
stuff.
makes the best speech here. It's obviously that these books were many years apart, because he figures out how to speak to people, and he also figures out how to get out of Judaism. He obviously got out of the giant traditions of Judaism, where it's only speaking Torah and Messiah at this point.
Yeah, he had 20 years to do this, though. So, okay, I stand. Oh, actually, one. It's not an I. It looks like one. I stand. I stand. Nope. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Mashiach has made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Guys, these are struggling points for Christians, right?
This is the easiest book to understand. This should not be struggling.
This
should be super easy, that you don't want to be under slavery. If you go back to the previous chapter, this is where you can't take a single chapter or a single verse, and you can't take it and say, we're no longer slaves under this, and you make up what you want to feel good about yourself, to justify your belief, to justify your bacon eating, or whatever it is you're doing. You cannot justify yourself, only justified by the Torah. You have to weigh everything against the Torah. You have to weigh it against Mashiach. What is right and what is wrong? There is no black or white. And here he's saying that he freed you from the yoke of slavery, of death, of a curse. He freed you from these things that you do not have.
Bro, you're on a roll. Good job. Okay, no, that's exactly right. Behold, I, Paul, set forth as concerning you, except that Mashiach was circumcised, none of ye benefit. Jade, what did you make of this?
So basically said if Yahushua didn't keep the Torah, you guys it'd be useless. He'd be a useless leader.
Right. So in the NIV it says, Paul, tell you that if you let yourselves be circumcised, Christ will be of no value at all. So those are Christians have taken that and they've run with this, and they're like, well, we're not under the law. We don't have to be circumcised. We don't have to do this. We don't have to do that.
This is where you go back to the beginning of the book, and you understand that they had a huge circumcision issue. They had an issue with the Yahudim. The beginning of this book, they had a problem with them saying it that you go get circumcised, you follow under these beliefs. And it wasn't just circumcision; it was Yahudiism. He's like, if you go under this Yahudiism again, then you're making Mashiach's sacrifice worthless by going back under these things that they are doing. They are burning people by giving them 700 laws for the Shabbat alone.
Yeah.
Making them rip toilet paper, making them hire servants on that day, which is even a
Flip
sin
their
in
lights
itself.
on or whatever. Yeah.
It's just,
yeah. So the NIV has it says, mark by words. I, Paul, tell you that if you let yourselves be circumcised, Christ will be of no value to you at all.
and this isn't to just go circumcise yourself for Yah to be in covenant. This is, these people are going back under Judaism. These people are going back under the oppression of the Pharisees, where they shouldn't have done it. This is where Peter kind of failed. He kind of failed the people here. He kind of
Peter did fail the people, but I'm not gonna knock the man. The man.
No, he was an
Messiah.
excellent man, but he makes mistakes. He's just as the rest of us. He makes mistakes as
Well, our Messiah,
everyone
the
else.
Messiah left. The Messiah left the building for a while, and this is what we end up.
He made a
with.
mistake, and this is where we can be thankful that Paul stepped in, or everyone would have gone astray.
Absolutely, I agree. Okay, 3. For I testify again to every man that is circumcised that he is a debtor to do the whole law. And again, nobody wants to do the whole
Basically,
law.
he's saying if you only have circumcision and that's all you follow, but you don't follow the law, it's useless. Why do you even get circumcised?
Well, yeah, and you're a debtor to the whole law. If you're going to circumcise, you better at least love your neighbor as yourself. You better do all
follow
of
the
it.
whole law. If you just get circumcised and don't do anything else, then it's useless.
And that
Are
doesn't
we
mean
supposed to
don't-
follow the whole law?
We're
Yeah.
supposed to. That doesn't mean don't do the law, don't get circumcised, don't do any of it, because that just makes you a Gentile. That just makes you a giant Gentile.
Circumcision is one of 174 laws, right? And so that's what we have to understand. It's you break one law, you break them all.
It just seems circumcision was a big tripping point for a lot
It
of
was
people back in the day.
Absolutely,
It's
because-
just a huge problem that if you aren't circumcised, you can't be part of the thing. And that's Jewish tradition.
Yep.
You cannot enter. Yes, you need to get sacrificed, but you don't have to do it immediately. You need to begin this. You need to get your
Yes, you
heart
need
ready.
to have circumcision, but you need to have your heart ready is what you mean. You said sacrifice instead of circumcision.
Oh, my bad.
But that's awesome. No, I got it, and thank you very much. Okay, 4. Ye are abolished from Mashiach. Whosoever are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace.
So basically saying if you have salvation by the law, you're abolished from. The Torah is not abolished. You are abolished. You're making yourselves back under death. You are going, when you throw out Mashiach or you throw out the Torah, you can't throw them both out. You have to keep them both. It's like a giant piece to a puzzle. You can't open the door without a key. You need both. You need the door lock and you need the door in the key to open the door.
And you can't be justified by the law without a Levitical priest. We don't have that, and which is why Messiah Yahusha is the man.
And that's why when we get into Hebrews, we understand a lot more about the priests. The books are all go together if you read them correctly. If you do it correctly, things will fall into place. But you cannot take a single verse saying one thing or another and expect it to be work for you.
Yeah, and I'll use another analogy. It's like having a big bulldozer, right? And you've never driven the bulldozer, and you have a book. You're supposed to read the book. You decide not to read the book, and you try to make the bulldozer work, right? You're going to have a problem.
You're either going to start it up and you're going to break it,
Kill it. You're going to run
it.
into a building. You're going to kill some people. You're going to do some horrible things because you haven't read the book. You don't know how to start and stop the thing properly. Okay. 5. For we through the Ruach wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. For in Yahushua HaMashiach neither circumcision avails anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith in fervent love. Okay, the Christians will run with this, guys.
And this is where you have to understand that he's saying that anyone is allowed to have salvation in Mashiach, whether circumcised or not. This is where you have to understand that this was a letter to these people. These people were struggling against Pharisees. They were falling under the trap of Pharisees in their own man-made traditions of Judaism, of the Babylon that they came out of.
Yeah, I think the Pharisees walked around with a straight razor, and they were trying to circumcise everybody. It was like, hey, come here. And they're like, no, hold on. And you gotta walk before you run. And if you're just cutting off skin just to be one commandment of 174, that's not what this is about.
It's a modern day church. If you don't do according to their traditions, they kick you out. They put you under peer pressure. It's the same thing as it is today.
Yeah, true. Okay, 7. Ye did well. Who did hinder you that ye should not obey the truth? Okay, again, the truth is capitalized. What is the truth, Eli?
The Torah.
Yeah.
And if you see Yahushua, he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Yep, no man comes to the Father except by me. This persuasion comes not of him that calls you. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. What does that mean?
Well, that is for bread, for making bread. But what he's saying here is that a little leaven, and leaven was considered sin. That's why you would only eat matzah back in the day. Why you would eat unleavened bread? Because they want to throw out the sin. If you have a little sin, it makes the entire body sin.
Yeah, and I mean, that goes the same for the circumcision party, right? You toss a little bit of their leaven in, right?
It's going to make
it makes the entire bread taste whatever
If you
the leaven
become
is.
a Buddhist and only serve Buddha on one day, but the rest of you serve Yahuwah, you are not following Yahuwah.
No.
Mine makes a lot of sense.
What you do?
A little leaven, a slight inclination to error, or a few false teachers leavens the whole lump. It perverts the whole conception of faith, or misleads the whole church.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about church. Church isn't in there, but
Yeah, I
that's
know.
some man-made stuff as well. Okay. I have confidence in you through Yahuwah that ye will be none otherwise minded, but he that troubles you shall bear his judgment, whosoever he is. Okay? Let me read that NIV because I don't understand. I am confident in the Lord, lowercase, that means Baal, it needs to be uppercase, that you will take no other view. The one who is throwing you into confusion, whoever that may be, will have to pay the penalty. Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Messiah Yahusha says that too.
Yeah, anyone that leads you astray needs to be put away. He needs to bear his own judgment.
And if the Torah is as strict as if somebody comes and teaches you another Elohim, you're supposed to kill
Paul's
him.
like their parent almost. Paul's like their kind of spiritual parent. Teaching them this in the spirit.
But he's adding to the message that they've heard,
Yeah.
because he came from highly educated Judaism, of Pharisaical Judaism, and then he added the doctrine of Messiah Yahusha, which made him the enemy of all the Jews, essentially the enemy of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 11. And I, brethren, if I preach circumcision, why do I yet suffer persecution? Then is the offense of the cross ceased? Jade, what do you got?
So
Brothers and sisters, if I am still preaching circumcision, why am I still being persecuted? In that case, the offense of the cross has been abolished.
So he's basically saying if he only preaches circumcision, he follows them.
If he's only preaching what the Pharisees preached, then the sacrifice
Cross
of
is
Yahusha
ceased,
meant
yeah.
no good.
Yeah.
It was no good.
12. I would they even were cut off, which trouble you. Yeah, they should be.
That those who disturb you would cut themselves off.
Right. For brethren, ye have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another.
So basically, he just said, don't use your freedoms, don't use your salvation to go live in sin. That's what he basically just said.
Yeah. For all the Torah is understood in one word, even in this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
True.
That's one sentence. It's not one word, but
It's some.
Yeah.
He says, mine says, if has been.
did you say one word?
The entire Torah is completed in one word.
IB says one command.
Maybe that was one word
Well,
back
one
in
word.
Hebrew.
Yeah,
or
one
something.
word would be a command. One
Yeah.
word, Yah's word. That's
Yeah.
what he's saying. Okay, and that's right. He's Leviticus. What's the footnote in Leviticus 19? Yeah, 19:18. Yeah. So, and that is what Messiah Yahusha reiterated as well. 15. But if ye bite and devour one another, take heed that ye be not consumed one of another. This I say, walk in the Ruach, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For well, and I mean that's the thing, right? And that's the Christians take this out of context. They say we have the Holy Spirit, we can eat what we want to eat, we can do what we want to do because the Holy Spirit will guide us, and that's all there is. They don't know the Torah. And when you fulfill the lust of the flesh, that means you're walking against the Torah, because the Torah would not have you walking to the lusts of your flesh. 17. For the flesh lusts against the Ruach, and the Ruach against the flesh. And these are contrary, the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. But if ye be led of the Ruach, ye are not under the law. Ariel, what do we say?
Oh no, he's not under the law. No, he's not under the the curse of the law. When you are under Yahuwah, when you are led by the Ruach, you are not under the curse of the Torah.
And these are the hard to understand words of Brother Shaul. We just are in 5 chapters. Not one thing did he say that we're not under the law.
And this is where, again, I've heard this before. Oh, we're led by the Spirit. We're not under the law. And this is where they don't understand. See, if you want to take a book and you want to call it doctrine, you should go to originally the Torah, because that was commanded to everyone. This was a single thing commanded to a single group of people that were struggling in something, and Paul was just trying to help them. He's trying to guide them, give them a little bit of direction to go, so that they do not curse themselves in what they're doing.
Yeah,
and I'm sure back through the other books, Paul probably would have had fixed a lot of what he said in those things. He probably would have gone back. He probably regrets a lot of it. He probably went into the grave with a lot of regrets of what he wrote. But I don't think he ever expected to be put in a book either.
Yeah, no, this was years and years later. Okay, now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies.
Okay, I want to mention one thing that mine says under sorcery. Mine says drug sorcery instead of witchcraft.
Well, that's witchcraft.
So yeah, it's just cool that they
Big pharma.
It's just kind of cool that that put that in there. Kind of clears things up for people that are confused. What is sorcery? Drug sorcery. Your local pharmacy.
Anything you would inject into your body that is foreign is drug sorcery. Okay.
All right.
Envyings, murders, drunkenness, revilings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in the time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Elohim.
So he just quoted almost every form of sin that you could do against the Torah. He quoted that right there: idolatry, sorcery, murders.
Hold on, let me clarify what you're saying.
No. So basically, he's saying what it is to be a sinner, what it is to live in the flesh, is to commit these sins, and these sins are all against the Torah.
Yep. But the fruit of the Ruach is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law put in place. Okay? And that's true. We don't have such thing. Love, joy, peace, long-suffering. There's no law.
This is what the Ruach would do. The Ruach is going to teach you these things.
Yep. How to walk it like Messiah Yahushua walked. Okay. And they that are Yahushua HaMashiachs have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. Okay? So essentially, if you are in Mashiach, then you have walked the Torah, right? You are going to be walking the Torah as well. It doesn't mean perfectly, but that you are doing every last possible iota of trying to keep it. And when you do fall, you fall immediately guilty. You're crushed. Your heart breaks. Your soul breaks. You live in the bondage. You live in bondage because you are under the guilt, and that is bondage. Guilt is bondage.
And I think another way to put that is, if you are going to follow Mashiach, you are going to kill your lust, you are going to kill your sins that you have inside you. You are going to get rid of those. You are going to impale it, as it says in mine. You are going to hang it up on the cross. You are going to give that to Yahushua, and you are going to get rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we should not be living in sin. If we live in the Ruach, let us also walk in the Ruach. And the Christians say that all the time. This is their thing.
We walk in the Spirit.
Yeah, we walk in the Spirit. That's all they do. And if they walk in the Spirit, nothing can stop them. Not even the pork chops. They love it. Let us not be desirous of vainglory, provoking one another, envying one another. Okay, beautiful. So far, so good, right?
Excellent. This has been a great 10 out of 10.
The only thing that we have here possibly that is strange or hard to understand is verse 18. But compared to the other books, it is. I mean, the 18 is, but if you be led of the Ruach, ye are not under the law. And the Christians take that one verse and they're like, that's me. I got the Spirit. I got no law. Okay, let's do it. 6. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's good. So far, I have an approved book, I believe. Okay, brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such one in the Ruach of meekness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted.
So he just said, if someone falls off the path, you need to bring this person back up. You need to help this person get back on the path. Don't let them continue down their sin. And that's what we're told in the Torah. If we see someone that is going astray, we need to bring it up to him. We need to make him listen. And if he doesn't listen, we take him to another person. We take him to an elder.
Yep, and we have excited dogs. The dogs are probably going to go crazy here. If they start ramping up, I'm just going to do a quick pause and I'll let them howl, and then I'll get back to you. Verse 2, bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the Torah of Mashiach. Okay, what does that mean?
So he says, bear the burdens. He says, take on the problems of the other people, help them out. And that completes the Torah of Mashiach, which Mashiach said, love your neighbor as yourself. It's the same Torah that Yahuwah has given.
All right, dogs are going wild. We'll pause. We'll get this out of the way. We'll be right back. Much love. Hang tight. All right, and we're back.
All right,
Let's
back
continue.
to what I was saying. Verse 2. For those that are looking to complete the Torah of Mashiach, Mashiach said, bear one another's burdens. Why would you bear another one's burdens? You will love them as yourself. You're going to help them in their problems.
Yeah, and we're supposed to take care of our enemies. We're supposed to help other people. We're supposed to take care of our neighbor, all that kind of stuff.
And he said that completed the Torah of Mashiach, but not only was it Torah of Mashiach, but also the Torah of Yahuwah.
Yeah, and the Torah of Yahuwah is the Torah of Mashiach. The Torah of Mashiach is the Torah of Yahuwah.
Like Yahushua said, my commands are my Father's commands.
Yeah, I do nothing of myself. It is him that alone. Okay, 3. For if a man think himself to do something when he is nothing, he deceives himself.
Okay, mine says, for if anyone thinks himself to be somebody when he is not, he deceives himself.
So
it's
if you're
basically
trying
saying,
to be if you're trying to be someone you're not, if you're trying to be high, you're trying to be pompous, and I apologize I interrupted you, but I'll continue on. If you are trying to be something you're not, trying to show off to someone just like you would do to be under peer pressure with the Pharisees, like the Pharisees were doing, if you were under that, then you would be trying to be somebody you're not. You're deceiving yourself.
Yeah, so Jade, what were we saying?
Basically, don't try to be someone you're not. Be who you are. Don't try to be something else for someone else.
Yeah.
Don't go into other religion because because the Pharisees, these people were trying to be someone they weren't. They knew what the good news was. They knew what the Torah was. But they did what the Jews did because of peer pressure. They tried to be someone they weren't.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, but let every man prove his own work, and then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone, and not in another. For every man shall bear his own burden. Jade, so go on with that. But let every man prove his own work.
So basically, he's like, let everyone do what they need to do. Let everyone follow their own Torah. Let everyone show their own faith. Don't listen to what the Jews say.
So I think a good way to do it is he said, let everyone examine his own work. It's going to show me your faith by your works. Then you can feel good about yourself, right? You have to look back at, are you following the Torah or not? Are you doing what is correct or not? Because everyone is going to bear their own burden. Everyone's going to have their own struggles in life. And it does not need to be added trying to be someone you're not, trying to prove to these people that are not even people of Yah that they are somebody good.
All right. 5. For every man shall bear his own burden. Let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that teaches in all good things. Okay, so what does that say?
And let him who is instructed in the word share in all that is good with him who is instructing. People need to interact with each other. People need to share
Teach,
what they
help.
know.
Yeah.
Share what they know, compare it. They need to. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to your neighbor and you're supposed to teach it. That's what's commanded in the Torah is to, when you raise up, speak it to your neighbor, speak it to your children, speak it to your people. And we know that the promise that is to come is that everyone in the kingdom is going to know the Torah. There's not going to be anyone to need to teach it. But until that time comes, we should be going out and we should be teaching as many people as we can. You should, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's your distance
Family,
friend, whether it's
yeah.
a pen pal, it doesn't matter who it is, you should be teaching. Take every opportunity you can to at least drop something to someone about the Torah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, 7. Be not deceived. Elohim is not mocked. For whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap.
It's, you do good, good will come back to you. If you do bad, bad will come back to you. It's as easy as that. And Yahuwah is not going to be mocked. Like we always say in our Youth for Yah segment we do, is that Yahuwah always makes sure everything is repaid correctly at the end of the day.
Yep. For he that sows to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. But he that sows to the Ruach shall of the Ruach reap life everlasting. Sorry, the dog's being angry. Okay.
So, like I said before, if you are sowing for Ruach, if you are sowing in the Spirit, you're going to receive good things in the Spirit. But if you're sowing in sin, you're going to receive the curses of the sin. You're going to grow up the curse of sin.
Right. 9. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not.
So they're basically saying, don't be afraid of doing good, because you will be repaid for that good.
Yeah. Verse 10. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith.
So he says basically do good. Don't be afraid to do good things in front of good people.
Right.
Don't be afraid to do good at all. He says you have the opportunity to do it. Just do it. Why waste your life thinking back, I could have done something good, when you can just go do it? It doesn't matter if it's going to, if you have a struggle with it, just do it. You're going to feel a lot better after you minister to someone or you do something good to someone that needs the good to be done.
Don't be that guy on your deathbed who wishes he would have done everything different, is what I'm thinking they're saying here.
Yep.
Okay, 11. Ye see how large a sefer I have written unto you with my own hand. Hey, he wrote it. If this was not Theophilus or Theophilus. Teretus.
He's saying, hey, I wrote you this letter. Look how much I've written you here. There's a lot to take in, obviously. There's a lot you need to read. There's a lot you need to go over.
And back in the days, it wasn't a ballpoint pen, folks. This was like a quill and some ink.
Yeah, there was no such thing as modern day technology of a pen or something easy refills. He was sitting there. I think you had to grind up your own ink as well. I don't think you could just go buy
probably
ink.
took him days and days to write, I would imagine. Okay. Are we on 12?
I think so.
Okay, as many as desire to make a fair show in the flesh, they constrain you to be circumcised, only lest they should suffer persecution for the cross of Mashiach. And again, it's the people that are like the circumcision party.
Yeah.
They want. It's all about flesh.
He's
And-
saying there's some that have gone astray so that they don't have to get a persecutor. There's some that are going to go get circumcised, go become their little Jewish people, have their little things wrapped around them and all these things that look like Jewish things that they have today. It's the same thing they had back in the day, they have now. And it's not working for them. It's not going to work out in the end for your salvation.
Yeah. For neither they themselves who are circumcised guard the Torah, but desire to have you circumcised, that they may glorify in your flesh.
Well, that's excellent. That's an excellent statement.
That's right.
He's just saying that they're not keeping the Torah. They're just doing it for their own man-made doctrine. They might feel good about themselves.
They have one
for other people.
Right. They have one commandment of 174 that they're enforcing upon you, that they may have glory in your flesh. When your flesh is in you, they're like, look, we got this guy circumcised. But what about the other 173 commandments?
And they don't even keep
Right,
those.
it's like Christians. When you I saved 100 people this week, and they all raise their hand and say they want to be saved. They're all ask Jesus into their heart, and they don't go and change their ways. They're the same person they were when they walked into that church.
Yeah, it's do as I say, not as I do. Those people. Never should I glory, save in the cross of our Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach, by whom the world is crucified unto me, and I unto the world. And then NIV sounds a little better. May I never boast except in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, through which the world has been crucified to me, and I to the world.
So basically, he's saying it does not matter what good you do. You should never boast in what you do, because Yahushua did so much greater on that cross.
Absolutely.
He's like, you should only boast that you are saved in Mashiach. You should only boast in the cross and the perfection that Yahuwah finished off.
Yeah, perfection is exactly right. For in Yahushua HaMashiach, neither circumcision avails anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creature. And again, if you are just reading this, just that verse, then you're going to go, well, I don't need to be circumcised. It doesn't mean anything. you do need to be circumcised when you are in covenant with our Creator. It's a part of the covenant. But the covenant doesn't come with one single commandment. It doesn't come with this. It comes with a lifestyle, loving change that you guarantee that you will walk with our Creator. And when you're walking with our Creator, then getting circumcised is a great thing. Okay, 16. And as many as walk according to this rule, peace be on them, and mercy, and upon Yashrael of Elohim. From henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of Adonai Yahusha. Brethren, the grace of our Adonai Yahusha HaMashiach be with you, your Ruach. Amen. All right, beautiful. All right, this is the very first book that does not do some odd things, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe you guys have some other opinion on this.
I don't think
I think
so.
that was great. I think that was actually a 10 out of 10.
I still don't think we should be using it as doctrine because we're not Galatians. We weren't there at that point in time. And it's like we have what we need to know. We know what we need to follow and what we need to believe in. And he was just trying to help people. He was trying to minister to them.
Yeah, and we don't have that circumcision party, the kind of peer pressure that these guys had, because nobody, I guess in North America, and I don't know what other countries, I do know in North America that circumcision is by default what people do. Eli, will you please pay attention?
Yeah.
No time for jokes here. The circumcision is what we want to, that's what they do, but they don't do it to keep the Torah or anything of the sort, right? And so it is very, very important that we are only keeping the laws, statutes, and commands of our Creator, walking the walk of Messiah Yahusha, and anything outside of that is where we need to have red flags. It's where we need to check ourselves. We need to look at our doctrine and look to see if we are freeing ourselves and you call the Torah bondage. That is a cult. That is programming. You have learned that because people that have never read the Torah have told you that. And they've told you that the law is bondage, and it is not. It is very good. It is for all times. It is for all family. It is for everything.
If anything, this book was more of a reinforcement that we need to be keeping the Torah, that we do not need to be led astray by man-made doctrines, which is Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism. Nothing we should do should be outside of the Torah and Mashiach. And he specifically states that. He said in the end that the people that are trying to get you to be circumcised aren't even Torah keeper. They're not even believing the Torah. So I think that was a great book.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys very much.
Shalom. Shalom.
Shalom.